The Market Theatre presents the hard-hitting drama Rose, starring actress Camilla Waldman. The play is a personal confession of an extraordinary woman and her memory of all the brilliant and tragic elements of a life lived to the fullest. It focuses on the Jewish woman and a moving reminder of some of the events that shaped the 20th century. The play was first performed in the Cottesloe auditorium at the Royal National Theatre in 1999. This year, it will make its South African premiere at the Market Theatre until the 16th of May. To share more on this remarkable play, we're joined by Camilla Waldman. Camilla, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting me.
Can you tell us more about the play Rose? What is that all about?
Rose is written by playwright Martin Sherman, and it's a play about a survivor. Rose is an 80-year-old woman who tells you the story of her life. She sits Shiva, which is a Jewish culture of mourning, where people gather for a week to sit and to remember those that have passed. As she says, the particular dead of this particular Shiva. And so it is in the course of her sitting on her bench, holding Shiva for what you realize only much later, whom she's really sitting Shiva for, and I shan't give that away now. But that's really what the story is. It's in a personal account of some of the most tumultuous events of the 20th century. So it's both a very large story and a very personal one.
You know, Camilla, do you want to let us in on how you landed this role? Did you have to audition for it? And, did you know about the character you play before you actually played that character?
I have to say a very big thank you to James Ngobo, who is the artistic director of the Market Theatre. During the lockdown days of 2020, he created a wonderful online season called Shake Her Spear, where he gathered a whole lot of South African actresses and gave us the opportunity to choose some pieces of Shakespeare, particularly the masculine voices. And so we were allowed to, well, not allowed, but invited to step into some of the Shakespeare, particularly the very famous traditionally male speeches. And it was during that season that James mentioned Rose to me and gave me the play to read. At that point, we weren't sure about the rights. It really is a superb script. And Martin Sherman, whilst very encouraging of it playing in South Africa, was very specific about the director, particularly. Mr. Malcolm Perkey was selected as the director for Rose. And so it was through that negotiation that Rose started to unfold. I read the play and I really loved it. It's been a great honor. I have to say, the steepest mountain I've ever climbed as an actor. And given the challenges of our current pandemic, we really didn't know whether we'd be able to make any theatre. And the fact that it is a one-woman show in a very, very confined space, it did mean that it was possible for us to be able to create Rose within the challenges that we face and keep a little light burning in our South African theatre.
You just said that it's the steepest mountain you'd had to climb, in taking on this role. What are some of the biggest challenges that you had to encounter in carrying out this role?
The play is 2 hours in length. We've made no edits to the script, so the script plays as it did on Broadway, which is challenging because both for actor and audience, because it's an hour and then an interval and an hour. So it's a long piece of work where really you're listening to a rich story and an account of someone's life. And so the endurance to meet the script and to meet the fear of really going out there on your own with a magnificent script that you really want to serve with some superb direction by Mr. Perkins. In the Barney Simon, one of our great South African theatres, there's a lot of pressure.
I can imagine. I can imagine, Camilla. How much of you do you see in this character? Any resonance, perhaps?
I do. I think a lot of people will find resonance with Rose. I think that's actually part of the brilliance of the script. Whilst, of course, she is very personally specific. She's 80 years old, and I'm not 80 yet. and and she's a Jewish woman, which she claims and celebrates with great joy and pride. Having said that, she's traveled from Russia through Poland, Europe, and lands in Miami Beach, Atlantic City, and then Miami Beach. So she's made quite a journey, and I relate to her as I think a lot of people do, because she's looking for where does she belong, and while she has kind of feet in many communities and strong attachments, she questions that throughout her story about where actually is our human belonging. And so I resonated a lot with her, and with her, she has great humor. So she's very funny. She has a kind of wry, quite naughty sense of humor sometimes. So she causes us to reflect. She causes us to question. She causes us to laugh, and in moments certainly to cry, and to argue. I think, and that's what she says right at the beginning of the play. Is that part of the experience of sitting Shiva is you laugh, you cry, you argue, whilst you remember. Yeah. And so I think in that, the experience is quite a rich one.
Now, Camilla, how is this production bringing something new to this story?
I think the South African context. Okay. I think, Sipiwe, I would have to say, in respect, the script is so rich and dense, and such a powerful script in itself that speaks louder than any interpretation can. That I mean, it is a Broadway piece of theatre. It is truly, I think, will go on to be a classic, if I could put it that way. As Mr. Sherman actually said, he wrote it at the Millennium in 1999, and I think in some ways, he hoped that the play would not necessarily have relevance 21 years later. I think in the hope that perhaps we had travelled further in our humanity. I think the fact that we still see as much displacement as we do in our current world, I think in a way makes the play still very relevant, and in some ways that's quite sad, whilst at the same time we reflect once again on where we are. So I think, in terms of its South African context, I think the honour of it playing at the Market Theatre, the Market has always brought some of our really great pieces of theatre. It's always been a theatre that has spoken to reflection and questioning and causing us to look at where we are. Sure. And so in that regard, I think, we bring that energy as South Africans, and I think it's something that we do a lot of.
Yeah. What kind of person will absolutely love this show, Camilla?
That's what's been so curious, is that I think both Sipiwe, that Malcolm and I and the Market Theatre were quite concerned about, where it would land in terms of an audience. And what's been so amazing is that we've had a lot of young people. A lot of young people have come to see the show, and I've been really amazed by their response. It's been extraordinary. And I think it's because I think the play invites you into this very quiet, private space. And I think as the play's story unfolds, I think you're caused to remember your own life and your own ancestry and your own belonging and your own community. And so as Rose talks, I think she brings, resonance and thinking for the audience. And so in that, I've been amazed, as I say. So I think actually as an audience, it really crosses age barriers. I couldn't say that it speaks only to old people because she's an old person, because as I say, I found it quite amazing how we've had a very varied audience, and I've been really moved by the way in which our audiences have responded, particularly young people. been amazed by that, very moved by that.
I get a feeling that this is an absolute must-see, Camilla. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
I appreciate the support of the theatre, sir. Really appreciate. Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Do have a great day now. We just spoke to extraordinary actress Camilla Waldman. Now, Rose, a fascinating and remarkable story about the feisty Jewish woman. The Market Theatre continues to stage brave work as it celebrates its 45th year in existence.